Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday, September 19th, 2024, and this is a meeting of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. I'd like to bring the meeting to order, if I may. Let me start with the land acknowledgement. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands in which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize a special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They're the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas, recognized through Treaty 13, as well as the Williams Treaty of 1923. A shared understanding of how the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how a collective past that brought us to where we are today will help us walk together for a better future. May I please have a motion to approve the revised agenda as circulated by legislative services? Michelle? Bo, can I ask you a second? I can't see very well, so if you put your hand up there for a second, I'll get to you. Any comments or questions on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thanks very much. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Good, seeing none. I'll ask for a receipt of the minutes, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee meeting of May 16th, 2024. Can I have a motion to receive the meeting minutes of May 16th, 2024?
So moved.
Okay, Jesse, and seconded by Bo. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. We have no delegations this evening. I assume they're going to be part of this. And we have a memorandum from the manager of recreation regarding sport plan refresh. Can I have a mover and a seconder to put the item on the floor for discussion? Shaheen, move it. Seconder? Irene? Thank you. Please, would you like to speak to the item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the currently in the process of refreshing our sport plan. We did a comprehensive sport plan in 2016, but it was always meant to be sort of a 5-year plan. So it's now beyond, 2021 is sort of where it took us to, and we're now, a couple of years overdue for a bit of an update to that plan. We are calling it a refresh because the initial plan provided a really good foundation. And there are some things in there that we can certainly build upon with this refresh. So we went through our procurement process and we've retained consultants from Optimus SBR to help us complete the work in terms of updating the sport plan. So we have David Lynch with us tonight. He's a partner, and Jeremy Geisler is a senior analyst with Optimus SBR tonight. And we'd like to have a conversation with you about the sport plan. That we've got some very specific questions that David and Jeremy are going to talk to you about, just in terms of helping to inform and frame this sport plan update that we're working on. So I am going to turn it over to David and Jeremy to start the conversation.
Great, thank you very much for that. And my name is David Lynch. As Lisa said, I'm a partner in industries and government practice. I do a lot of work with municipalities, and ordinarily one of my colleagues, Mike or Jesse, would be here as they're heavily involved in the project, but one of my colleagues had a personal matter, so they're stuck with me tonight. So but look forward to the discussion. And I've also worked with Jesse and Mike on several parks and recreation and sport related projects in the past. So and then I'll let Jeremy introduce himself, and then we'll give you a quick overview of the project just in terms of where we are, and then we'll dive into about 5 questions just to get your views on things. As we're very much kind of in the current state right now. So you want to take it away?
Sure. Thanks, David. Hi, I'm Jeremy Geisler. I'm a senior analyst here at Optimus, and I've been working with Mike for the past few months with this project, and as well as Dave and Jesse. So I guess I'll run through kind of where we're at with this project and our overall goal with developing the plan. So as Lisa mentioned, the most recent sports plan was developed in 2015, which carried you guys through to 2020. And to build off that plan, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan was approved in 2023. And really that focuses more on infrastructure and programming, where this plan focuses more on how the town can ultimately work with LSOs and community organizations to deliver sport to the community, as recognized that sport and just the world in general has changed tremendously over the past few years. With that being said, some of the trends we've been able to see, and some of the areas that we're aiming to focus on is 4 key areas of the sports plan, being leadership, sport participant, sport tourism, and community support engagement, and sport tourism, with DEI being encompassing in all of those pillars, rather than previously being just perhaps perceived as a checkbox as its own separate pillar. And we really wanted to narrow it down to 4 main pillars this time, rather than having an expansive list of 6 or 7. So currently, as Dave mentioned, we are in the current stage phase of the project where we're conducting engagement with LSOs and community sports organizations as well. Many of you might have received a survey that we just put out. So just to provide an update of kind of where we are, we've met with around 20 LSOs, and we have a few scheduled in the following week who are able to make our group discussions. And so we're doing some one-on-ones to increase those numbers and to get some more feedback. And we've currently met with 3 or 4 community partner organizations, and we have a few more scheduled for next week. And in terms of the survey, we have about 23 results so far, and we just only opened that on Monday. So hopefully in the next coming days, those numbers will continue to increase. And the feedback that we receive will obviously help shape and provide feedback for the sports plan. I spoke a lot there, so I'll just take a pause if you guys have any questions before we move into discussion.
Through you, Chair.
Yeah.
So that sport plan survey was sent to all registered sport organizations.
Yes, all registered sports organizations, their members, community organizations, and it was also shared on the website of the town.
Is there, who provide that list? I run a sports organization in the town, and we didn't receive it. That's why I'm asking.
My question was, how was the distribution done? Because I think I've seen it on social media.
Yeah.
At one point. I wasn't sent it personally from a Sport Aurora standpoint, but so maybe there's a problem in terms of getting it. And I will tell you that in my experience, when we send anything to sport organizations, not all the time do they distribute it unless they're given specific instructions as to what to do with it. So
Yeah.
maybe, well, what about you?
Yeah, we have not received that I know of.
Sure, and certainly, I mean, there's always, maybe we send it and because there's someone else's email, like went to a spam box, but I mean, this is great. We only released it on Monday, so we'll be happy to share it directly with you guys, and would really ask for your support in terms of sharing it with your members. And I can send you guys the link out to their email, and yes, hopefully we can spread it to as many people as possible.
Sport Aurora would be happy to.
Yeah, and we would appreciate
to
that.
the presidents of the organization with some instructions as to
Yeah.
what to do if you're having difficulty, because it may have.
Yeah, any
spam
security-
if it comes
yeah.
From your address with this,
Certainly, and we
very
would-
sensitive about that stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle. Appreciate that. Any other questions from the virtuals? Or you're not virtual, but you're on virtual? No? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Carry on then.
So yeah, we're just here to have a bit of a conversation this evening. So there's really 5 topics, 5 questions we want to talk about this evening. The one is the distinction between sport and recreation and what that looks like in practice and how people think about it. The role of LSOs in the town and sport development, the current relationship between LSOs and the town, insights on emerging pillars of the sport plan that Jeremy just mentioned, and then potential challenges and opportunities. So if you need to take us on tangents or things like that, that's okay too. Or if there's things that we haven't asked directly about that you think are relevant, obviously happy to hear about that as well. But just wanted to go through these 5 questions and get your thoughts. So as Jeremy said, this will shape our thinking, shape our current state summary report, and then ultimately the plan development.
How would you like to proceed with this and instructions to the committee then? Do you want to pose a question and then we do a roundtable?
That would be
discussion
great.
type of thing?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
do that. So yeah, through the chair, if you're comfortable, so obviously we're focused on updating the sport plan. How do people define the difference between sport and recreation?
Okay. Can I start with the people that are in the room and we'll just go across the top and then we'll reverse it the other way around? Michelle, can I ask you first?
Sure. I was thinking, I would think of it, I would interpret as defining the difference between sport and recreation, between organized and non-organized. I mean, that would be the initial play on that. Competition versus sport versus recreation. And sport, I would also say like dedicated space versus recreation, maybe not necessarily a dedicated space, but those are my initial thoughts on how I would define the difference between sport and recreation. Sport obviously also ensuring that or providing some sort of skill required to participate, and recreation not as much skill.
Oh,
I'm going to echo what Michelle said. I think definitely the organizational piece. I think that we would all agree that recreation needs organization, but it's not in the same light as sports organization. And certainly the competition versus participation, right? So that would be the second part to me.
Shaheen, can I ask you next?
So with this one, I think that the differences between like an organized league, like my colleagues have said, and recreation is like sort of like playing pickleball at the court once in a while, that type of thing. But recreation can also include things like land-based activities too, like yoga or sitting in a park, so, and just meditating. So I guess the competitive versus non-competitive is what my definition would be.
Okay, thanks. Irene, how about you? I mean, if you're.
Okay, I was
there,
trying to
there you
unmute.
go.
There I am. There I am. Yeah, basically, I'd echo what everybody else has been saying about organized and competitive being the sport side. I think on the sport, you may also be limited by the amount of infrastructure that might be available: ball fields, soccer fields, ice time, that sort of thing. Whereas recreation is not quite as restricted. Anyone can do it. Basically, you can walk, run, jog, do yoga in parks, that sort of thing. And participation is certainly optional. Sports generally would cost more in my mind than recreation, which anyone can do almost any time with very limited equipment needed.
Okay.
Okay.
Jesse, how about you? I know it's you're the last in the bunch, but do you have anything to add there?
No, I'd agree with the level of organization and the level of competition. I'd also argue that recreation extends to non-sport related, so not just physical, athletic activities. Recreation can include drop-in arts programs, things like that.
If I may, I mean, I'll just add a couple of things here. I think sport, the purposes are a little different.
Yeah.
In many cases, I mean, a lot of recreation is for fun, it's for health, just for personal interest, whereas in sport, it tends to have rules, it has officials, it's more organized that way. There's a winner and a loser typically, unless you're just training for sport.
Mhm.
But globally, that's kind of the things I think are different and I appreciate what everybody else has said as well. Anybody have a second thought that didn't get put on the table and I would like to bring it up? Michelle, you started. Did we cover everything? Oh, anybody else? Going once? Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Next one.
Next one. This is a question we typically ask in any strategic planning or planning context. What's working well with respect to sport, or with respect to the support that the town provides to sport organizations? And where are opportunities to enhance or improve things in future?
Okay. So let's go back through the other way. Jesse, how about you first?
My relationship with my organization is on pause at the moment, actually. So at last check, everything was going well. We had just recently changed the working relationship between the town and the organization. So I need to sort of put a pin in my thoughts on that for the moment.
Okay. Do you care to tell us what organization or you'd rather not?
AFC or ORU Soccer Club.
Oh, okay, great.
Whichever way you know it as. So there was
Thank
a lot
you.
of changes in the recent past between the relationships there and working well.
Okay. Irene.
Okay, I'm not involved in any organized sport in the sense of as defining it that way. It would appear to me, though, from observation, that the town does provide a lot of facilities and a lot of opportunities for people to do different things. I think we're quite lucky with the amount of facilities we do have. Used to be that it was hard to sign up for things like your kids' swimming lessons and that, and I don't know if that's still a possibility or still a problem. But those kind of ability to get into organized sports, maybe there's opportunities there to increase that if it is an issue. But I mean, from my point of view, I'm more involved in on the recreation side and more things that people would find to do themselves in parks and whatnot.
Okay, thank you. Shaheen.
So as a parent, I'm not involved in any sport organizations. But as a parent, I find that there is improvement in the amount of sports available to our children, but we still have a long way to go because if you want to get your child into a swimming class, again, you have to be on the computer, like literally like within few minutes of the opening of registration to get in. This happens with also summer camps. It's happening with all the popular items. So there is an expansion that needs to happen in Aurora. On the recreation side, I feel that we need to we do have a lot of opportunities for paint classes, but again, availability is often during the day and not in the evening. So those of us who work during the day can't always attend during the day, and we're missing those opportunities. So, for example, there's painting every month, but it's always during the day. It's not in the evening. So we're not capturing everybody in Aurora. So those are the things that I think need to be tweaked and look at, like maybe put out a survey to see what people want to do what is and what are the barriers that are there for Aurorans. So that would be my input.
Okay, thanks, Shaheen. Pardon? I don't know, Shaheen, when there was some background noise when you were talking, I looked to see if other people, so maybe there's some noise coming from the background in you. I don't know, but I got most of what you said. You guys okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so it was a bit of interference, took a little time to get used to it. Thank you. Bo?
So I'm guessing this question is related to what's working well generally with all sports organizations in terms of the town.
Yeah.
From my viewpoint, I would see that hockey, soccer, baseball have lots of facilities, lots of support from the town. From my experience, I can tell you court sport is certainly not something that's working very well. Currently, the volleyball club that I run, Storm Volleyball, has no support from the town. We've asked and looked into gym space, and essentially the town really doesn't have any, and that's a huge issue with running a sports organization like that. Opportunities, build the facilities so that other sports organizations also have these opportunities to make relationships with the town, in my opinion.
Sure.
Yeah, so I just made some notes because I'm not first this time, but in regards to what is working well, I think over the years I've been heavily involved in sports pretty much my whole life in Aurora. So I think some of the more positive experiences that we're able to have now with like the building of hotels, updating the infrastructure and facilities, which is allowing us to move towards more positive sport for the community. Some of the background things that are happening, like moving up timeline requests for permits to provide a better opportunity to be competitive in the market. Some of the things that from a sport perspective we had heard aren't allowing some of our organizations to get big tournaments or like championships and things like that because we were behind when it came to looking at that. Doing a lot of recent changes with, although sometimes negative, like benchmarking with our fees and things like that, have increased the fees, but it allows the town to be competitive when it comes to making money and be able to put that back into the infrastructure. Also, although it has some impacts to adult sports, like looking at the allotment policy, grandfathering clauses and things like that. So I think some of the things with the recent updates in the other areas for recreation are allowing us to work well with sport. Some of the opportunities I think would be looking, and I know my organization struggled with this, so for the struggling organizations, especially young adult and adult organizations are having a lot of difficulty, I know, in the town because Aurora is an affluent town, right? So a lot of young families can't afford to live here. So a lot of the organizations struggle with like monetary concerns. And I know there's some things that the town will assist in, but I think that there's opportunities for future support from the town when it comes to assisting with marketing, helping those struggling organizations, the allotment policy along those lines. So.
Okay, anybody a second thought before we move to the next question? No? Okay. Yeah.
And the next question is maybe just for, thinking about, the same kind of question in terms of the support the town provides to sport organizations, but thinking about it in terms of the proposed pillars. So more specifically, are there other things that are working well or opportunities for improvement or support under leadership and development in particular, sport participant experience, community sports sustainability and sport tourism? I've heard a few of those items here and there, but are there any other specifics on that front, or does that jog people's thoughts in any way in terms of specifics or under those
Okay.
pillars.
Well, let me change the order up just a little bit. Bo, can you go, while you're in the room, you go first in the room?
Yeah, I mean, thought about this quite a bit. The leadership and development opportunities. There's definitely opportunity there for the town to take some kind of leadership role, especially to younger or newer organizations that, again, need to get their papers and their bylaws in order, and some guidance. And we talked about that through Sport Aurora. Sport participant experience. But again, I think it really depends on what sports we're talking about, right? So there's sports in the town that are very well participated in, and there's sports in the town that are not through the town. It's through other organizations, through school boards, through other means. So I would, yeah, I can't really think of any others in terms of C and D.
Anything about sustainability? Bo, talking about sports sustainability and tourism?
Well, the sport tourism side of things is clear. If we can't bring people here because we lack facilities, then we're not going to have people coming in to fill the hotels that we've built, right? So we will with some sport organizations. Hockey is the big one, right? Soccer could be another big one. We've got plenty of those in terms of fields, but I can't see it happening for the plethora of sports that are available in the town.
Maybe I pushed ahead too quickly. Do you want to go all through the group, B all go through the group?
No, I
Have
think we can
everybody
I
do
think
all
we can
four at the
all
time?
four at
Okay.
once. Yeah, just to.
Okay, great. Bo, you didn't talk about sustainability and what town could or could not do about helping sports sustain themselves, and I assume sustainability has to do with finances and just staying alive. Okay. Anything you have to say on that, Bo?
I don't think so. Not at this point, really.
Okay, great. Irene, let me call on you then. From the virtual, you get the first crack at this. Can you let us know a little bit about question 3?
Well, I don't know that I have a whole lot I can offer on that because I don't have kids that are involved in any of the sports in town anymore. We did have it one time, and I'm not personally involved in it. I would speak more to maybe some of the things later, like the equity and ensuring you have, equal opportunity to get court time and that sort of thing. But I think on these, it's more for those who have more involvement with it.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate the comments. Jesse?
Leadership and development opportunities. I think there is a real opportunity for the town to help out organizations or partner with organizations because there is an awful lot of overlap in terms of training that I was going to say young coaches, but any age group, obviously, beginning coaches and officials. There is a ton of overlap in terms of initial steps in training, and then obviously it branches off whether you're in hockey or soccer or volleyball or whatever else it is. But I think there's opportunity there for sort of consolidation where the town could be maybe stepping in and offering some of these initial courses, and then also taking the cost of marketing for those programs and soliciting participants off of each of the individual organizations since there is so much overlap. And I think that's the only one I really have to speak to. I think Michelle talked about sport tourism earlier and sort of touched on everything. I don't really have any other thoughts on the other B or C.
Okay, Shaheen?
So over the 4, I would just say that we also have to look at the fact that Aurora is growing. So with all the new housing development coming in Aurora, I think we also have to start looking at creating more infrastructure and more fields for like for more opportunities to have sports available. Besides that, and we want to always increase tourism in Aurora, so we're gonna have to make Aurora more attractive. That's something that I think.
Okay. Any other last thoughts that may, you want to piggyback on from anybody? Jeff?
I haven't
Oh, you
gone
haven't
yet.
said anything?
Yeah.
Sorry, I would have missed
My,
it.
all my notes, yeah.
My apologies.
No, I think like from a leadership and development opportunities, like one of the things and moving that with sport participant experience as well. I think the town's doing a few things, like for example, working with other organizations. I know like they're working with rugby and the town group is providing like a learn to play that's run through the town. And is just providing some opportunities outside of organized sports for individuals to learn. So I think by providing those development opportunities, you're allowing people who may have like certain subsidies through the town to be able to learn a sport. So working with more than those. On the other side of thing, though, I did put for like developmental development opportunities, making sure that, and this is me like taking off my sport hat and more from like a accountability to the town, making sure that any development opportunities are working with different organizations that they are fruitful for the town, particularly when I'm thinking like the new rugby fields and what that cost will be to the town. When I think about like the soccer dome and how that was taken over, and just making sure that if we are following with a development opportunity with a theme or pillar, that it's we're working with on both sides to make sure it's an opportunity for both organizations. And I just think sometimes we may provide opportunity that is not a good thing for taxpaying citizens. So just making sure those development opportunities from a sport participant, like making sure, like one of the themes would be, making sure that if we are providing this positive experience that comes with, appropriately roomed facilities and diamonds and things like that. So that should be a theme or for the sport plan going forward, especially when the town did just undertake this huge fee assessment and pretty much increase the fees over the next 3 years. So for a 5-year sport plan, that should be one of the pillars, is to make sure that that participant experience are getting what they paid for, kind of thing. And then a theme really should be, providing an opportunity for everyone to participate. If we're looking at themes and pillars of what that would look like from a sport participant experience, everyone should have a opportunity to participate in any type of sport or recreation. Echoing what someone said in regards to the support of community sports sustainability. So working with the community groups to help engage and provide marketing for them. So, with that rugby program that I'm aware of, well, the town is providing rugby free marketing essentially, right? So how can we engage other groups to help provide marketing or working with them to help sustain their organizations? And then I think, well, this is an overall town question, but over the last several years, a lot of it's been put into the new town square and the cultural center. So the focus hasn't been on sport for the last 4 years. So if we're redoing the sport plan and it's going to be a main plan with the town, then from a sport tourism, from a pillar, then we need to start making sport a focus as we move away from the opening of the town square and looking at other opportunities to focus on in the town. So.
Great. Again, any second thoughts from anybody before we leave this third question? No? Okay, thank you. Dave?
Yeah, and that last comment's a great segue in terms of rugby example. We're asking what activities or mechanisms the town established to increase resident participation involvement in sport generally, but in particular with diversity, equity, and inclusion lens. So are there roles the town could play, supports that people think could help actually increase participation in sport?
Okay, great. I don't know who hasn't gone first. Shaheen, I don't think you've gone first yet. So let's start with you.
So I think that that we need to like look at different ways to engage residents in sports. So maybe the sports ban can include like, this is a tough one for me. So I think that we need to look at like what, residents want, because it's one thing to have a definition of inclusion, but residents also have to want these things, right? So maybe having like an open house for residents to come and speak about what they are looking for, or survey, and because I mean, we're doing some great things in Aurora to include everyone, but there's more to do on the sports and recreation side. And like echoing my colleague, we've spent a lot of time on the town square. Now it's time we start looking at sports in Aurora.
Irene, you're next.
Okay, this is for just the first part of number 4. Is that what we're talking about? The activity, how the town could establish?
Well, let me ask David, is this, you're really looking at participation, but looking at equitable, accessible,
Yeah.
diverse
Okay.
participation?
Yeah, yeah.
That's where we're headed on this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so that may help you, Irene.
Yeah, thank you. That helps. I think one thing you have to look at is equitable and fair distribution of time allocations, whether it be on ice or in the pools or in courts. You hear a lot of things in the news about women and girls league don't get as much time as the men and boys. I don't know if that's an issue in Aurora, but that's something that should be looked at. So I'm not saying it's an issue, but it needs to be looked at to see if that is fair. Maybe offering more things in the evenings or daytime instead of just on weekends. And I know that depends on who your audience is and who you're trying to attract. But we've been talking a lot about increasing resident participation, and not all residents will want to participate in sports. We haven't said anything much about recreation except at the beginning. But recreation, as in non-organized stuff and non-competitive, all the things we said at the beginning, is also important for residents and for general health and participation. So it seems like this update is really focusing on the sport plan side of it, not recreation, and yet we're supposed to be recreation as well. So I don't know whether something is going to be looked at on the recreation side, as well as making maybe things more available to people at different times, or increasing what is available. One would be like, we did a trails master plan in the town some years ago. I don't know whether it's ever been updated, and the town has grown quite a lot. But linking our trails throughout the town for cycling and for jogging and running would be important forms of recreation. But I don't know if that's under this scope or if it's somewhere else. But I think if you're trying to get resident participation, don't look just at organized sports, look at more recreation as well.
Okay, great. Jesse?
I think that we could be offering more drop-in and introductory programs. Those are a lot more accessible for younger people in lower sort of socioeconomic brackets. And they're also more appealing for someone who doesn't, wants to just see what something is like, and maybe is new to this country and has never heard of pickleball, but wouldn't mind giving it a try once or twice, that kind of thing. I also think in terms of inclusion, or I shouldn't say all of, but much of our recreation marketing and communications are in English and on social media. So if there was a means of specifically reaching out to different community groups within the community. That might be a good way to sort of include different specific cultural groups, church groups, things like that, where maybe they're not even aware of what we already offer, never mind what we might offer going forward. That's all I can think of there.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, I think there's certainly opportunity to potentially create some kind of funding or some kind of support that is more local or town-based in terms of, or particularly for residents, to support low-income families. As we've stated, Aurora is an affluent area, but we certainly have low-income residents as well. I also echo the translation in terms of languages. So there are many families that are moving into Aurora that are not English first. So translating and helping with marketing, I think, would be a big thing. And then I think that just engaging LSOs to continue developing both able-bodied and non-able-bodied sports would be another thing that we would want to pursue.
great. If I may, because I come from a coaching background, I think the other issue that the town could be, or sport organizations could be, is to help recruit sport leaders and coaches that have a diverse background, because they tend to attract families that come with them. And so, and I really agree with everybody who talked about the language issue, because 35% of our population doesn't have English as a first language. So if they can't be taught sports because they don't have the lingo there, or they don't know how to get engaged with things, that's certainly important as well. Any other second last thoughts? Or Michelle?
Thanks for always.
Again.
I'm always here.
That's the
too.
second time. I apologize.
Yeah, so I think from an activity perspective, what was already said, so working with organizations to provide those learn to play days. I know that that's helped us, like from a fastball perspective, we know slow pitch is like very increasing. So some of our registration people think that they're coming to play slow pitch for us, and then those learn to play days that we have prior to like really help them learn what's happening. And then also like if the town facilitated like an open house, like a sports fair type thing for the sports organizations, to be able to come and set up booths and things like that for free. And so those types of activities would, I think, assist in increasing participation and involvement. Mechanisms, so looking at not just like, I know we fill out our forms every year on what our participation is and our list and where people are coming from, et cetera, but looking at also surveying residents who aren't currently participating in sports. So looking to provide feedback on what they would like to play. And so aiming some sort of survey out to those. And then also, we talked about this in the field review, but we understand that sport is moving, and then after COVID was moving in certain ways to be more independent and type of thing. So looking at that culture and the way that sport is moving to provide structural planning, like, and put mechanisms in place to provide that structural planning so that we can increase participation involvement for the sports that are growing and for the sports that we can potentially see in the future. So.
Anybody gonna piggyback on a second time around before we leave it? No? Good. Good.
And the last question is just anything else we need to know? Anything that we haven't asked about directly, or anything else we need to know this project?
Okay, who has, Shaheen, you haven't gone first yet, maybe you have, I can't remember.
Yeah, I have.
We'll just put your hand up and I'll try to find you when you do, so Shaheen, go.
Okay, so I just would like to see that like just like one of my colleagues said, having a sports fair, and it would be really nice to have like you said, different languages available for residents to, and it doesn't have to be publicated. You can just like, pick a language and then it translates it for you. That would be really cool. And I think it would be really amazing if you could change the sport plan title to recreation and sport plan, because that way puts both under this umbrella.
Okay. Let's do Jesse next.
My only thought is that we're sitting here having a conversation, trying to focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we don't necessarily have the most diverse group of us sitting at the table. So maybe we should consider ways of making this conversation extended to a more diverse audience.
Good point. Great. Irene.
Yeah, I echo that last comment as well. I like the idea of the drop-in introductory things with some sort of language facility so that people could come in and either somebody who speaks their language would be there, or even just to have a basic outline of it translated. And I know there's so many different languages, it's not clear how you'd sort out which ones you want to do or not. I think to the point about the using recreation as well, as I said earlier, this is really looking at just sport. Most of the questions were all on sport, not recreation. So if you're going to do that, there should be more things included, or more questions around general recreation needs, or what we would like, or what the town would like. There was something else. I might think of it. I thought I had some other thing, but I'll see if it comes back.
Michelle, you're going now.
Okay. Well, I just also want to note it for this as well. Like, we are here to talk about a sport plan. So while I understand that recreation is important, this is specifically for sports in Aurora with organizations and things like that. So when we're focused on that particularly, I think some of the other comments that I would have is providing opportunities for sports organizations or just the town to partner with like national or international organizations or other sport organizations to bring things to the town or opportunities to get it out there. So I know, like, growing up, I went to a lot of like, there was hockey games where we brought in like big teams from the country or international to bring people to the arena to watch, right? When it came to fastball, I know, like, we had like King and his Court here that provided a big opportunity for people to witness. So providing opportunities for big sports events in the town to bring people out and expose them more, and then working with partners such as, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there, but like Gatorade or people who are heavily involved in sport, Coca-Cola, Scotiabank, TD, whatever it might be, to bring their sport opportunities to the town. Partner with them to provide scholarships or opportunities for people to participate in courses and things like that. So we didn't really touch base on that, but how can we work as a town with other organizations to bring or to better our teams as well? It's been a while since there's been big competitive teams in different areas in Aurora. I mean, growing up, we had the Junior A, won the Canadians several times. Like, I'm not hearing as much about that so maybe it's from a marketing perspective or just putting money into our organizations to make them well-known and competitive on an international and Canadian level. That always brings people into sports as well, right? I think baseball saw a resurgence big time when the Jays started winning again. and things along those lines, soccer as well, rugby. So providing those opportunities with a little bit of money to engage people.
Bo?
I think there's certainly an opportunity to also work with provincial organizations to do some of the leadership and development opportunity work that can be done. I think Michelle made a great point in terms of bringing in some kind of a sponsorship, some kind of a funding, some kind of a partnership with. I'll give you an example. We had a parent in our organization that was part of BioSteel, and we just didn't have the space or a place for any kind of building a facility. They were interested, and they've taken their child and they've gone down to Toronto, and that funding has ended up down there instead of here. So trying to find that avenue, the right group, so that we can develop some of these things that we want here.
Right. And that kind of goes to the support of community sports sustainability. You're suggesting that maybe the town might be able to bring larger sponsors, not only to put a name on a building, but also to fund things that are important, such as coaching development, leadership development, that type of thing. You know, if I may, some of the things that really are important from a leadership point of view is we have a lot of boards and not-for-profit boards, and we don't tend to spend a lot of time in helping develop boards. And as Irene and Jess and others have said, we haven't done enough to encourage boards to be diverse and have lived experience people, because they would certainly like to tell you that, well, if you want to get to the Asian group, you have to speak in Mandarin, and you have to have people on your board that participate. So, you know, it's that lived experience thing. I also heard a couple of comments about, just a few though, about finances and financial ability. That's a big barrier to participation. Many parents, I think, and I've heard from them, that they're afraid that their kids are going to be good. Because the truth is, if someone says, well, great, we'd like your child to go at this level, but that means more practices per week, a bigger game schedule, tournaments away, all of that. And while we spend a lot of time trying to get people in the front door and provide them with a meaningful recreational / sport experience, if they don't have there's no equity in moving forward because there's no financial ability. And what happens in sport now is that mainly the team get together and the parents get together, and somehow there's a funding that goes on so that that person can stay on the team. But there ought to be better ways to do it. And we've talked to people about a sport trust that appears elsewhere, where people would qualify because of their skill level to do that, then to go on further. So that's the only other things I have to say. What's next then, Dave?
That's it. This has been really fruitful. Thank you, everyone, for the discussion, engaged group, and a lot of good ideas. So
we're going to try to do something about making sure we get a greater response to those surveys.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we'll do that somehow within here. Anybody have any last words or questions that may have come up before we move along?
I had one question.
Sure.
Sorry.
Irene.
Yeah, one of the question says, how to increase resident participation and involvement. What is the participation in Aurora? I mean, is it really low compared to other towns? What are we comparing ourselves to? So I don't know whether we have information on that, but it'd be nice to know, like, are we about the same as other towns? Are we aiming too high or too low or whatever?
Great question, Irene. Maybe I'll have to ask Lisa about what kind of metrics have been done with respect to the number of males versus females, the ages, I know issues around finances and gender, how you're identifying, is maybe that's a good place to start. If it's not being done, if you're gonna make changes, you need to know what your demographics are and how they've changed over the last little while. Can you help us with that a bit?
I don't have any statistics off the top of my head. I think it's very sport specific, I think, in some cases, right? Like there are some sports that are bursting at the seams, have wait lists, just don't have the space. There are other sports that are struggling to get people in the door and struggling for participation and that sort of thing. So we haven't sort of done that deep dive and don't have those statistics yet. I would say, just sort of from what I hear from my colleagues in York Region and beyond, where you're sort of seeing the same picture everywhere. Pickleball is a very popular sport nationwide right now. Those sorts of things. So I don't have any specific stats off the top of my head, but we do know that there are certain groups that are not participating for a variety of reasons, women and girls, newcomers, all the groups that we've mentioned already. And again, we're hearing that sort of region-wide, GTA-wide. And we do know that there are some sports that are more popular than others, and those go through waves. Pickleball is very popular right now, and it depends what's happening nationally with our as Michelle said, when the Jays are doing well, baseball becomes very popular. Every kid wants to be the next Blue Jay, right? So there's absolutely, we see those influences as well, and it does ebb and flow. But as I said, I don't have any specific stats off the top of my head right now.
But do you think that might help our sports if we got a little more granular with some of the metrics like that? Or do you think it's just too difficult to do?
I think for the purposes of this plan, I'm not sure it would help. Like, the ultimate goal is to ensure that we have anyone who wants to participate in sport in the community can participate. And those that aren't participating, we already know there's a variety of reasons why they're not participating. So I think, like you said, that gets very granular. And I think that's work to be done later that we wouldn't necessarily include that level in the sport plan.
I guess what I've heard here today is really the town should be considered as an enabler. Give us some fields, give us facilities, give it a pool, do the rest of it. Give us opportunities to create trained coaches and sport leaders and that kind of thing. Do the allocation policies that may shift over time so that they're fair and equitable. Assist sport in being able to communicate better with newcomers and others, and provide training opportunities that any individual sport can't possibly do, but collectively it's important to do.
And that's where we see our role, is we want to provide those opportunities to all of our community sport organizations. Some of them need our support more than others. And as we sort of go through this process, we can have those conversations. But again, a sport plan is sort of a bigger umbrella in terms of offering all of the sport groups those leadership development opportunities, whether they want them or not. The ones that want them, we'll work with them closely. The ones that don't need them, that's okay. It's there when you do. It's there if you do want it at some point. Yeah.
You're not suggesting you want to be interfering with the way boards operate and sports operate. You trust that they're going to do their own thing. You just want to help them get where they want to go for their own objectives and strategies. Before I call the vote to receive all these comments, any last questions from anybody? If there are none, then let me call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Linda, you're okay with, you've been writing furiously? Thank you. Okay. We have one more item on, but I don't imagine you folks are keen to stay around for the next item.
We don't need to, no.
So you're okay to leave
Yeah.
if you
Yep.
choose to do, but if you'd like to stay and do the last little exercise that we've got going here, then you're welcome to do so.
We'll step out, just sure.
Yeah.
Okay, could I just ask, oh, I didn't know we wanted that. Ashita, are you still on and do you have anything you'd like to say? Ashita's for the next item, yeah. Okay, you're here?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear
Good,
me?
I just wanted to make sure you were there. Thanks very much.
Absolutely, no problem.
Okay, so this is an informational item that is of interest to the committee. And it's a memorandum that we have from the town clerk, as she is here, regarding advisory committees. Can I get a mover and seconder just to get this on the floor so we can have a bit of a discussion? Thanks, Michelle, seconded by Shaheen. Thank you. So the motion here is that the memorandum regarding the 25-26 citizen member recruitment for advisory committees report be received for information. So Ashita, would you speak to this item quickly?
Sure, absolutely.
Not quickly, do it
Mr. Chair.
thoroughly, put it that way.
Yes, absolutely there. So as already mentioned in the memo, so the purpose is to just inform the committee that we have begun to recruit for the 2025-2026 term for advisory committees. And the reason why we're here and we're redoing this and repeating this process as we did at the beginning of the term was because citizen members are appointed for a 2-year term only, which is expiring at the end of this year. So that is only the reason. And as it's also as mentioned in the memo, all current members who are interested in continuing with this committee or any other committees of interest must reapply. So, and all the information is actually available on our website and it's all live now. So I encourage everyone to please check it out.
And the applications are open and or they will be open soon, correct?
They're open as of today, Mr. Chair. So through you, Mr. Chair, to everyone, they're open as of today and they will be open until 4:30 p.m. on November the 1st.
Great. There's no changes in the application process because all of these people have gone through that.
That is correct. Through you, Mr. Chair, no changes at all. It will be the exact same process that we did at the beginning of the term. Yeah.
The other question that I've heard from others is, are the current advisory committee members eligible to be put on the committee for a second term, should they choose to do so?
So all applications will be reviewed as per the conditions in our policy. So usually it's after consecutive terms. So I believe it is, if I recall correctly, just as mentioned in our policy, it's usually 2 consecutive terms. So, but it is up to council's discretion to make that decision. So usually after 2 consecutive terms, it is mentioned in our policy that, members shall not be considered for reappointment, but again, that is a council decision.
Okay. Other questions from members that are here now? Do you have questions for Ashita? No? Oh.
Through you, Mr. Chair, is there any opportunity to include sport in any of the names in terms of the committee? Like, it's a Parks and Rec committee, but we just went through a sport plan meeting, wondering where it fits into the scheme of the committees.
That's a good question. In the previous sport plan, there was a recommendation in the sport plan to change the name of the Parks Recreation Advisory Committee to the Parks Recreation and Sport Advisory Committee, identifying that there should be sport people on the committee because sport is a part of recreation and leisure services. I think that was a concept. Ishita, I'd like to have you respond to that if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Through you, Mr. Chair. So currently in our terms of reference, the citizen appointments, it specifies that we'll look for members of public with different and diverse background to support the types of items that the committee will consider. So as per terms of reference, the committee's purpose is to support and advise the community services and operational services department respecting the delivery of parks and recreation programs. So it is not targeted or directed or has that specific sport group or a specific representation from a sport group mentioned in terms of reference. So this terms of reference is what we have currently, which is approved by council. But if that terms of reference is something that the committee wishes, then again, that is something that they wish to bring forward, then that can be brought forward to a future meeting at a terms of reference for, to review the terms of reference as well, or have any comments or questions on regarding terms of reference. But again, like I said, the terms of reference were approved by council. So we can definitely take that into consideration for future, but at this time, that's what the terms of reference are.
Okay, thank you. I will tell you that we have somewhat of a diverse recreational and leisure sport group here, so perhaps it's one of those things that works itself out. Now, can I just ask a question now, and it's a unique one because Mr. Bursick has been here for 2-3 meetings now because he replaced someone else. So is he considered this half of the term, and so he would have to be reconsidered for second half term?
Through you, Mr. Chair, so when we had recruited for when there was a vacancy for this committee earlier, that was for the end of this year. So that would still be expiring at the end of this year, so they would have to reapply. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. No other questions on that from anybody in the committee? Can I get a vote to receive then? All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you. I think that's about it, isn't it? Any new business anybody has? And these new business items sometimes will go on a pending list for a discussion. Lisa's here. If she hears anything, she can take it back to the department. So if there's anything burning and you'd like a discussion about it, this is a good time to do it. Okay. Okay, seeing none, then I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. You don't want to sit up? Okay. Both motion, seconder. Michelle. All in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.